About the plane when it crashed, and I was sad because I knew some of the people, and I know for a long time they didn't know where it was, and then they found it, and the first I heard that they found it was I was at one of the reunions here, which I come to every time. And, I think if it's possible to get the bodies out and bring the boys home, I think they should do that.
And how long did you spend in the service? Was it just one tour, or did you retire? Or?
No, I retired.
Oh, great.
I went in 1949 and retired in 1970.
And oh yeah. Which members of the crew that were lost? Which guys did you fly with?
Well, Russell, I flew with him. That's all I can think of offhand.
Well, I think Russell was a real popular guy. A lot of the guys said they had a lot of fun going out with Liberty.
Yeah, he was fun. We used to go drinking together and party and things.
Okay, and I guess anything else that you can think of that you might want to say, or any other comments you want to add?
No.
Okay, well that was painless and easy, eh?
Didn't go to bed.
All right, thanks a lot.
The Reunion by Rachel Burr. Autumn leaves rustling, together to the appointed place the old warriors come. Pilgrims drifting across the land they fought to preserve. Where they meet is not important anymore. They meet, and that's enough for now. Greetings echo across the lobby. Hands reach out and arms draw buddies close. Embraces that as young men they were too uncomfortable to give, too shy to accept so lovingly. But deep within these Indian summer days, they have reached a greater understanding of life and love. The shells holding their souls are weaker now, but hearts and minds grow vigorous, remembering. On a table, someone spreads old photographs, a test of recollection. And friendly laughter echoes at shocks of hair gone gray or white or merely gone. The rugged, slender bodies lost forever. Yet they no longer need to prove their strength. Some are now sustained by one of medicine's miracles. And even in this fact, they manage to find humor. The women, all those that waited, all those who loved them, have watched the changes take place. Now they observe and listen and smile at each other, is glad to be together as the men. Talk turns to war and plains and foreign lands. Stories are told and told again, reweaving the threadbare fabric of the past. Mending one more time the banner of their youth. They hear the vibrations, feel the shudder of metal as engines whine and whirl and planes come to life. These birds with fractured wings can be seen beyond the midst of clouds, and they are in the air again, chasing the wind, feeling the exhilaration of flight close to the heavens. Dead comrades, hearing their names spoken, wanting to share in this time, if only in spirit, move silently among them. Their presence is felt and smiles appear beneath misty eyes. Each in his own way may wonder who will be absent in another year. The room grows quiet for a time. Suddenly an ember flames to life, another memory burns. The talk may turn to other wars and other men and of futility. So this is how it goes. The past is so much present. In their ceremonies, the allegiances, the speeches, and the prayers. One cannot help but hear the deep, eternal love of country they will forever share. Finally, it's time to leave. Much too soon to set aside this little piece of yesterday. But the past cannot be held too long, for it is fragile. They say farewell, see you another year, God willing. Each keeps a little of the others with him forever.
Good evening. I'm essentially from the Black Shoe Navy. I've never been to one of these Airedale functions, so maybe it's time I change my rate. Anyway, my name again is John Bastine, and I'm retired Senior Chief Hospital Foreman. And I served in the Navy from 1955 until October. My retirement in October 1974. In 1966, I was first-class hospital corpsman and stationed in Keflavik, Iceland. 1966 was also the year that LA-9, a P-2V from vp squadron 5, was found on the ice cap in Greenland. Myself and Major Cole were members of the team that went to Greenland to recover the remains of the crewmen of LA-9. In a telephone conversation a number of months ago with Bob Petway, he told me about the reunion that was being held this year, and he asked me if I would come and say a few words, and I told him I would. As I can remember, and this is going back 38 years ago, so you'll have to take it for what it's worth, but about September 14th or 15th, there was a rumor going around the base at the naval station at Keflavik, Iceland, that a P-2V had been found on the Greenland ice cap. There was also a rumor going around that the command was going to be sending up a recovery mission to recover the remains and also to destroy the aircraft. On September 16th, I was called into the hospital administrator's office, and he told me that, yes, these rumors were in fact true, that P-2V with 12 crewmen had disappeared January of 1962, and that it had just been found by some explorers on the Greenland on the glacier in Greenland. He also said that the command was setting up a recovery mission to return the crewmen and destroy the aircraft. He said that the recovery team would be led by Captain Cole, then Captain Cole, from the Marine Barracks, along with 4 other Marines, 8 Icelandic Sea Land Rescue personnel, and 2 Navy personnel. The 2 Navy personnel included myself. I've been responsible for the tagging of the remains and placing of them in body bags. Jim Torgerson, who is now deceased, he was a chief shipfitter and also an explosive ordnance disposal specialist. He would be responsible for destroying the fuselage before we left the glacier. He said that the team would be transported from Iceland to Greenland by the USS Atka, which is a U.S. Navy icebreaker. He said that the Atka at that point in time was en route to Iceland to pick us up. He said that the Atka had 2 helicopters on board, and that they would be used to transport us and our equipment to the crash site. On Monday, the 19th of September, they reported that the Atka was coming into Reykjavik Harbor. We departed Keflavik base that evening and reported aboard the Atka, which was anchored out in the Reykjavik Harbor at about 2200. We didn't get underway that night, but the next morning at 0550 we did get underway, and we steamed that entire day and night. At 0700 the following day, we arrived at Cape Raven area in Greenland. And this is located on the east coast of Greenland, just north of the Arctic Circle. And this all happened fairly quickly. At 0745, the ship sounded flight quarters, and essentially the recovery mission was then underway. The flight personnel, they readied the 2 ships' helicopters, which were 2 small, I'd never seen them before, 2 small Bell helicopters. There was a long discussion before they got them going, saying that because of the number of the personnel and the amount of equipment, they wanted to remove as much excess weight from the helicopter so they could put 3 persons in the helicopter at a time. Once they completed that, they started ferrying the personnel and the equipment to the crash site. The flight to the crash site, from my perspective, was very impressive. Again, I'm not an Airedale. I've never seen an icebreaker or iceberg or a glacier. Anyway, we took off the flight of the Atka, and we flew at a low altitude over these huge icebergs. And then we headed right towards the coastline, which was the base of the glacier. The glacier appeared to be approximately 100 to 150 feet of sheer straight ice, a wall of ice. We approached the glacier, the face of the glacier, went over it, and we continued on to the crash site. When I got to the crash site, Captain Cole was there with other personnel, mainly the Icelandic sea land rescue personnel, and they were drawing up a map of the area and the search site. Once that was done, the Icelanders took their cross-country skis and they probed the entire area, making sure that it was safe for the recovery team to start sorting debris. Again, you have to realize that there was probably about 2 to 3 feet of snow on the glacier at the time. We worked the rest of the day shoveling snow, searching debris, and recovering remains. As you know, as most of you probably know, the remains found were mostly skeletal, and this was due because of the period of time that they were on the ice, and also the presence of the Arctic wildlife that was on the glacier. That night we camped overnight in tents, and the ATCA provided us with hot food and whatever supplies we needed. The following morning, on the 22nd, we got up, had breakfast, and we continued shoveling and searching of the debris. And something that we had an unusual incident happen to us while we were up there. Shortly after lunch, sometime probably around 1300, we had been gathered by the wing of LA-9 and the wheel strut, and we had a fire there. Well, as we finished our noon meal, we left that area. And I would say probably 20 minutes to a half hour later, there was this huge explosion. And what we understand happened is that the fire we had going there got the tire on fire. The tire on fire heated the magnesium wheel, and the two of them created sufficient heat to melt the snow which was on top of the wing and on the wheel strut. This all slid down and landed on top of the magnesium and created this huge explosion. Luckily, no one was injured. There were a few shattered nerves. Anyway, we continued to work the rest of that day. And at approximately 1500, we started breaking up camp. The Icelanders took their tents down, and we brought the remains, sent the remains back to the ship, and we also returned the personnel that wouldn't be needed there for destroying the aircraft. Approximately 5 o'clock that evening, 1700, with only myself, the ship's photographer, the ship had sent up a photographer and took many, many pictures of the recovery mission. And from what I understand, I had a few of them, but I think there's some somewhere that would be very interesting. But anyway, with only myself, the ship's photographer, and Chief Torgerson left on the glacier, Chief Torgerson planted and detonated the 2 charges so as to destroy the fuselage of LA-9. We were then, shortly afterwards, picked up by the helicopters from ATCA, and we went back aboard ship, and we landed on the ship. The ship's record states that we landed on there at 1814. And as quick as this mission was, at 1844, we were once again underway for Reykjavik, Iceland. We steamed that night, the following day, and we arrived back in Reykjavik at about 1930 on the 23rd of September. Essentially, the recovery mission for us was over. However, the remains were taken from the ATCA and brought back to Keflavik base, and they were then shipped to the United States for positive identification and funeral services, burial services. I want to say that it was truly an honor for us, myself and Major Cole, and the rest of the recovery team, to be a part of that mission. We also want to thank Bob Petway for contacting us and also for inviting us to this reunion tonight. As you know, you still have 2 crewmen up there waiting for their ride home. Let's hope the Navy provides them with that ticket in the very near future. Again, the ice is melting, or the ice is melting and moving, and time is running out. That's all I have. I don't know if Major Cole has any comments.